for this mock exercise, we're going to analyze about 8 expenditures related to a forklift for a company, or I guess for a company, and we need to determine whether these expenditures are capital in nature or operating expense in nature. So this really helps us understand what is considered a capital expenditure and what is considered an operating expenditure. So let's look at this question. So these 8 items are expenditures that were incurred for the forklift. And I'm just going to go through each one of them. I'm just going to verbally describe each one of these transactions. So we're asked that for each of the above 8 transactions, indicate whether the account debited should be an expense or should be an asset, and explain your reasoning. So the first one is rebuilding the diesel equipment. So when you're rebuilding an equipment and it costs $10,000, what we're doing is we're improving or we're bettering the forklift, the usefulness of the forklift. And in fact, by rebuilding the diesel engine may actually make the equipment much more productive, or perhaps extend its useful life. So if you have any of those criteria, then the $10,000 should be debited or should be added to the cost of the forklift, because it's going to add future economic benefit. So given the fact that we're rebuilding the engine, to me means that we are actually, it's an asset, not an expense, because it actually increases, hopefully it will increase its useful life. Or in fact, it would make the asset much more efficient, much more useful by having a better equipment. So the answer is it should be debited to the equipment. That's the first one. Now, new tires, $4,000. So does this new tire make the equipment more productive? Does it extend its useful life? In fact, having new tires would make the equipment work the way it should work. Without tires, you can't really use the forklift. So the asset's not usable. Adding new tires would just means that the asset is supposed to be operating the way it's supposed to. So to me, buying new tires for the forklift is an expense, because it doesn't make the equipment more productive, doesn't make the equipment more useful. It just makes the equipment useful the way it's supposed to be used. Having tires will make the forklift usable. So the answer is we need to debit repairs and maintenance expense. Okay? I'm going to short form this as R and M. Now, what about new safety cab 5000? And again, the word new and the word safety, it just makes that asset a little bit more useful. It improves it or betters the asset, makes it more productive. It helps, I guess it helps put safety in our employees. So the answer is it should be a debit to equipment. Now, number 4, replacing windshield. $800. Again, it's the same argument with the tires, isn't it? Does not make the equipment much more useful, productive. So to me, this is a debit, repairs and maintenance. Training new operator for $1,600. So again, when a company has staff turnover, you have to train your employee for safety reasons or functionalities of the forklift. To me, this training of the new operator should be part of an expense. So call it training expense. Because to me, it doesn't add really to the productivity of the equipment. All we're doing is we're training our employee to know how to use the forklift. It doesn't increase efficiency. It doesn't increase productivity. It's just part of what we need to do, and it's part of normal course of business, so it should be a debit to an expense called training expense. How about this one? New paint job after the company changed its logo and colors for $2,000. And again, it's the same argument. It does not make the equipment more productive by having new paint or new colors, does not extend its useful life. And painting, to me, particularly if you use the forklift, it's part of normal course of business. So this should be a debit to some sort of repairs and maintenance as well. Now, what about a 1-year accident insurance policy for $1,100 and $1,110? That, to me, is a debit to a prepaid insurance. It doesn't add to the cost of the forklift. It doesn't increase its productivity. It doesn't increase its value. So to me, it should be an expense item. But given the fact that they paid for it for 1 year, it should be a debit to prepaid insurance, and it gets amortized and allocate to an expense called insurance expense over the period of benefit. And finally, number 8, it says to increase efficiency, paid an operator $2,400 to reorganize where items were stored in the warehouse. So they paid somebody to come in and help organize the layout of the warehouse. And to me, reorganizing the warehouse is really part of normal activity, ongoing activity that the company should always do to try to look for efficiencies in their operations. So to me, this is part of operating expense. Okay? So the key takeaway to me is you only record these expenditures as an asset item if the cost of the expenditures either improves the usefulness of the asset, makes the asset more productive. It actually is what we call a betterment. All of those, if that's what these expenditure does, it enhances all of those criteria, then we need to record it as an asset. It's part of that cost of that asset. But if these expenditures does not extend its usefulness of the asset, does not make the asset more productive, chances are, and it's really part of normal reoccurring type of activity, it's normally an expense. An expense is recorded as part of net income for the current period. Thank you.